What's up, guys? We have gotten a couple questions in the last couple days about what if your husband or your wife doesn't choose recovery? What if they don't want to change? They don't want to get better. They want to stay stuck in addiction, stuck in anger and control and codependency. And what do you do then? And um, it's one thing to express a boundary and say, I need you to be in recovery, or I need this to stop. And then it just keeps going and going and going. And I want to give you a few options, the things that you can think about and look at if you are in that situation. If you have a spouse who is hunkering down in their unhealthiness and refusing to change. Couple of unhealthy options to start with. One is you could try to force them to change, and that is kicking and screaming and whining and complaining and getting manipulative and trying to get them to be motivated to actually change. You probably can get them to do some things, but they're not doing anything from their heart. They might do it from their head because you're manipulating them into changing. And what that will create is resentment on your part and resentment for them toward you. They're feeling forced into doing something, and you're resentful because you feel like you're forcing them to do it. And so it doesn't help the relationship. It might get them to do something, but it's not real recovery. Another thing you can do that I see a lot of is shut down in hopelessness. Pretend like the problem's not there, and just know that, hey, it's not going to change, so what am I going to do about it? So I might as well just shut up and deal with it. That can sustain a relationship. A relationship will continue because one person is biting their tongue and holding back their truths, but they're not living authentically. They're not living. They're not free to be them because they have to hide a big part of who they are to stay in the relationship. And so pretending like there's not an issue because you're too afraid to face the issue, that's gonna leave you with resentment. Again, you're gonna feel some resentment toward the other person, and it will lead to depression and ultimately just kind of shutting down. So those are two common responses to a spouse that refuses to change. Let me talk about the healthy thing to do, okay? And, there's a difference between saying your boundary and living your boundary. And the reality is if you can find solace and peace outside of your relationship, you have a much better chance of living a boundary. And so if you find your self-worth, your sense of okayness, if your life depends on that relationship, and any hope that you have depends on that relationship, then you're gonna be stuck. But if you can understand that God has a plan, you can understand that there's a purpose to things, and that if your spouse chooses not to be in a relationship with you, they choose their addiction or they choose their anger over being in a relationship with you, then you're saying, look, I want to be in love. I want to be close to you. I want a healthy relationship. And if you don't want that, then I might have to walk away from this relationship. And if you're empowered enough to walk away, to surrender your relationship over, then you can focus on your own self-care. You can look at it and say, okay, he's not changing. What now do I need to do to be able to feel some peace, to be able to feel alive and some freedom in moving forward in my life? And that might lead toward divorce. It might not. It might lead toward you having more time away from him and hanging out with your friends or getting into hobbies or doing things that you can move forward outside of that relationship. When they hunker down and they say, I'm not going to change, what they're saying is, I don't care about you and our relationship, and I'm hopeless, and so I'm not going to fight for you. And if you can face that hard reality, look at that, surrender the relationship over, and then focus on yourself and your own self-care and your own self-worth, then you'll be able to live a boundary and you'll be able to move forward. If you turn back toward that spouse who is refusing to change for a sense of okayness and a sense of self-worth, then you're looking for water in a well that's pretty dry, and you need to disconnect and surrender that relationship over. Now, I'm not saying divorce is the answer. What I'm saying is the answer is interdependency. The answer is you being able to separate yourself from that relationship and find peace and solace outside of that relationship so that you can take care of you. And that is living that boundary. Oftentimes it's hard to do it because you have to face a hard reality that they are saying, I don't want to fight for us. I don't want to fight for you. And that hurts, and that's hard, and it's easier to try to force them to fight or to just shut down and shut up. So I'd encourage you to love yourself enough to live these boundaries and to be empowered enough to not settle for scraps in your relationship, to go for intimacy and love and connection and honesty in your relationships, but be willing to do the hard things and live really hard boundaries in order to fight for that. You know, sometimes I see a person get in recovery and they get healthy and they get strong, and their recovery actually can destroy their relationship, because what will happen is that they're getting so healthy, the other person doesn't want to come along. They don't want to change. They want to stay stuck in denial. And the healthy person in love can say, you know, this doesn't work for me. I have to move on. And so I'll leave you with that today. And yeah, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you next week.